and perhaps I'm going to hand it over to Jeff right now, just to take us through a bit of housekeeping, just to make sure everyone is aware of how to navigate during our meeting.
Perfect. Thanks, Jerry. And again, I just want to echo, thank you, everyone. It's great that you're able to make it under these circumstances and kind of diving into the technology with us. If you're having any issues, certainly let us know in the chat on the side. I'm just going to share my screen just for 1 second. Just to kind of, for those that haven't been into, nope, that's not going to work. For those that haven't been into Teams before, there is a toolbar in kind of the middle of the screen there that's kind of like your lifeline as you're going through the meeting. So that will allow you to mute or unmute your camera and your microphone. Our best practice is that we're going to just right now, we're going to mute everyone. And that we found is the best for kind of the audio quality. It cuts out any kind of background noise, any unintended noise, or any feedback. The meeting is being recorded. This is the first time we've actually recorded a CPIC meeting before. There was some thought from the trustees that it might be good for parents to be able to see this meeting. So know that if you do choose to come on camera, that your image will be recorded. If you don't want to come on camera, that's certainly fine. In terms of how we'll run the meeting, Jerry's, as we know, a very competent, capable chair. I'm going to try and be a sidekick and help kind of support. We'd ask that you use the chat window to indicate if you'd like to participate. So in the toolbar, you'll see kind of on the right-hand side, the little text box image. If you click on that, all you need to do would be to type hand up. That'll let us know that you have something to contribute to the conversation. And then that way we'll give you an opportunity to have the microphone. You would then unmute yourself and then you could join. Are there any questions about that? You could post them in the chat window right now, or if you want to put your hand up, you can ask any questions. Okay, seeing none. I think we're good to go, Jerry.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks for the technical support for everyone. Okay, I'd like to call upon Father Francis to open our meeting with a prayer. And Father, don't forget to unmute yourself. Father, are you there? Ah, okay. Not there. Anyone want to step in for Father?
Sure.
Can't hear you, Jeff.
Sorry, Father Francis, are you okay if I step in for you?
We'll have to take that as a yes.
Okay. So just join us in the sign of our faith, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. I actually used this prayer this morning with our senior team, so I think it's appropriate that prayer that we certainly could use for this as well. And it's just a prayer for our team. Almighty God, thank you for the beauty and majesty we see in your creation. Thank you for the opportunity to care for the world you have made. We ask that your blessing would rest on this team, that you would give us great vision and enthusiasm for our work. Please bless the efforts of our hands, the bonds between us, and the influence of our work in this location and beyond. Lord, as we plan and share together now, may you guide us by your Holy Spirit and lead us into all truth. Amen. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Terrific. Thank you, Jeff. Okay. So now we'll turn our attention to the agenda and the past meeting minutes. I'm just trying to get back to it myself. There we go. So first off, the agenda. Hopefully everyone's has it in front of them in one shape or another. Any necessary changes or revisions to the agenda?
Just
Jeff,
one note.
You'll prompt me if you see a hand.
Sorry, yeah, just one note. Marvin and I were speaking before the meeting, and kind of the board update and the trustee update are really going to be the same. We're going to work on that together because there really is only one thing to talk about right now. So we'll do a brief update as to kind of what's gone on since our last meeting, and then we'll allow for opportunity for questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. So noted. Okay. If we have no other changes or revisions, if I could ask someone to move to pass the or to adopt the minutes or the agenda.
Marvin, move.
Andrea,
Thank you, Marvin. I'm sorry, who was the seconder?
Second. It's Andrea.
Andrea, thank you. Okay. Okay, and we could turn our attention to the previous meeting minutes. And if anyone has any comments to make, please do so. Okay, if there's no changes to the minutes, if I could ask someone to move to pass the minutes.
Marvin again.
Thank you, Marvin. And could I ask someone to second?
Joel, second.
Thank you, Joel. I also see Steve. Thank you. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's move right in then to the joint Jeff and Marvin board updates, please. Thank you.
Sorry, let me try that again. I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to go through the presentation that the director who's with us, Pat Daly, went through last week, just as an abbreviated version. It won't be as long or as detailed as his presentation. In fact, I would encourage you, if you're interested, to watch the board meeting last week and watch the full version of that, because it is very detailed as to the steps that we've taken since March 13th, when we were so putting in kind of a limited version of that presentation. Certainly invite Trustee Duart. We have our board chair, Ian Tomasi, as well. If they'd like to chime in at any time, or Director Daly, you're certainly more than welcome to. So as again, this presentation was shared at the last board meeting, and I'm just going to go through some of the highlights. So we found out on March 12th that there was going to be a school closure, and that school closure was then extended on March 31st until May 4th. And then on April 26th, that was extended until at least May 31st. So at that time, when we found out schools were going to be closed, we started developing our continuity of learning plan. And these were the three key pillars, the things that we decided we really need to focus on. First of all, health and well-being for all. Secondly, continuity of learning that is seen to be flexible and accessible to all students. And then providing our staff supports they need to create teaching and learning environments. So from March 23rd to April 3rd, the ministry indicated that they would be providing resources and that we would be supplementing those resources. So using the resources the ministry provided, Curriculum Services developed an accompanying document called Celebrating the Gift of Our Families, which you would have received as a parent or community member to help support our elementary and secondary students. While we were developing that and kind of supporting the ministry resource, our priorities were getting our educators ready for teacher-led distance instruction. And so our priorities became getting our staff up to speed with our virtual learning environments, doing a needs assessment. What skills do our teachers already have, our support staff already have, and what else might they need? And then putting our PD plans in place for those educators. And again, we had to move very quickly on this. A number of our staff would have been ready to go right away, and some of our staff had little to no experience with this type of virtual learning environment before. So on March 31st, we received the notification that it would be closed until May 4th, and that on April 6th, we'd be moving to teacher-led distance learning. So then our priorities became establishing contact between teachers and students. So we encourage our teachers to be reaching out directly to families to make sure that they can make contact, to assess that students had the resources that they needed, the technology, any devices or equipment, including some of the special ed equipment that they might need, and developing an access to schools protocol with Halton Public Health to ensure that we could get not only the resources that staff would need, but also that families would need to safely distribute the devices and equipment. So starting April 6th, we were in a distance learning environment. And I think it's important just to go into what distance learning looks like for a minute. Distance learning takes place outside of a traditional classroom setting. One form of distance learning we call online learning. So for us, we say distance learning is flexible and can be done at any point during the day. It doesn't require a student and a teacher to be online at the same time. And for equity reasons, we certainly recognize that it's a challenge for every family going through this. We're all kind of facing unique and different circumstances. There are not always times when a teacher can give an instruction that a student can be online at a specific time. It doesn't always require online access, so a lot of the work can be done offline, not requiring internet, and ideally will require minimal parent or guardian support. Our goals during this and for the foreseeable future are to ensure that our students can successfully complete the school year, advance to the next school year, earn credits, and graduate. The ministries provided guidelines around the hours of instruction and the focus of learning for all school boards. And so for each grade range, they provided a number of hours of work and a specific focus. They provided information around assessment and evaluation. So for elementary students, teachers will be using formative assessment, providing feedback to students on their progress, using assessments to gather evidence of how students are progressing, and providing meaningful feedback to support students in their ongoing learning. For secondary students, they'll be assigned learning tasks, projects, and culminating activities that'll be marked by teachers for the purpose of formative and summative evaluation. And teachers will communicate results of these marked assignments to students. For elementary school students, they will receive a June report card, including kindergarten students. Final grades will be based on learning up until March 13th, and work completed after April 6th will be reviewed and may be used to increase final grades if a student demonstrates improvement. For secondary school students, final marks will be calculated based on work completed from the start of semester 2 to March 13th. That provides the floor, the base mark as of March 13th, for which marks can only go up based on student work. And final marks and June report cards will remain the same or better than the mark at March 13th based on student achievement. Very quickly, some of the things that we've done to support families. We're continuing to give out devices even this week. I know some of our schools are going in, getting devices ready and handing it out to them. We've handed out over 1,300 devices. We've partnered with Cogeco to provide internet service for about 100 families. For families where Cogeco was not able to provide service, we purchased rocket sticks to be able to provide them another way to access Wi-Fi. We've produced a distance learning guide for parents and guardians. Our special ed department has worked tirelessly. I could spend an hour alone just going through all the work that they've done, training their special ed resource teachers, educational assistants, social workers, on, to be able to continue to provide quality support for our students with learning difficulties. There's similar support as well for ESL students. We provided a number of resources for staff. We've done professional development for over 1,000 educators so far. We've provided ongoing PD kind of by request, one-on-one support for our staff as needed. And we have a group of over 200 educators that is a self-directed that they've created professional learning platform where they share their knowledge and support each other, as well as using ministry resources. Provided a number of resources as well for our non-teaching staff. A number of supports for our school administrators. So when we were during phase 1 of this, we met with them virtually twice a week, and we've continued to meet with them once a week to make sure that we are knowledgeable as what's going on at the school level and providing consistent messaging to our school principals and vice principals. And our curriculum services is continuing to work with administrators to help develop monitoring templates to support quality distance learning. Lastly, just some faith and wellness supports. We provided a number of resources through our board website, so prayers, Christian meditation, and a lot of supports around mental health for students and families. And our social workers and child and youth counselors have begun virtual counseling with students currently on their caseloads. Finally, we've been working with Halton Food for Life to help package and deliver food packages to our families in need. And I know, Marvin, you've been working directly with some of the community resources as well to help support families. And we have been working to continue to try and meet whatever needs our families have that might typically be met during day school. So I know I went through that quickly. That was, as I said, probably 30 to 35-minute presentation that I tried to sort of distill into 10 minutes. Trustee Duarte, was there anything that you wanted to add? Or?
Yes, thank you, Superintendent Kroll. Just want to add a couple more things. We know that we are in uncharted territory right now, and I'm really proud to say that our principals and our teachers have done an amazing job to ramp up very, very quickly and to meet our curricular requirements. And we are very eager to get any feedback from parents, pass it on to board and board staff, and just little baby steps for improvement. One more thing which would like to add, actually I have a couple more things, do it very quickly. The next steps would be to capture the information, the lessons learned from this whole exercise. So Director Daly is going to be working on how to capture that information and use it moving forward. One more thing I must say is we are talking about the budget. It's budget time for trustees and very important time. We have received stakeholder feedback. We are working on it. We are deliberating, discussing that, and so we should be talking more details in June. So we are also shortly going to embark on the multi-year strategic plan, which is it's one of our important functions for trustees. That's coming up. Another one or two things. I'll take a few seconds more. Uniform dress code. The board passed the policy for the uniform dress code, which went out to stakeholders. You can follow it up at the board YouTube videos. You can see the discussions, and just so that everybody knows it's passed. Another initiative we are talking about is the science and math, engineering, STEM programs. There is a motion on the table to get reports on where we are right now and how we intend to proceed and expand this program for our students moving forward. So once again, I want to thank all the staff for going online, and we see the results today. We are pretty much getting there, but not really there. Thank you so much.
Okay, excellent. Thank you both, Jeff and Trustee Duarte. I do see a hand up from Andrea.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for the presentation, Marvin and Jeff, much appreciated. And thank you to you and your teams for all the work that they've done. I have a few questions. I'm just going to kind of walk through them. And I realize we just touched on financials, but maybe you don't have the answers today, but I'm just kind of curious.
Sure.
So, I mean, 2 seconds of background. I work for municipality, so naturally we're dealing with a lot of these things as well. And I believe a percentage of your budget is associated with revenues. Are schools going to be impacted by loss of revenue opportunities?
So you're talking about revenue based on students being in attendance at school? Is that what you're referring to?
No, like the fundraising and sometimes they go for other supports or programs, other services that schools might offer, because we're at the point now where we recognize that the first peak wasn't as significant as anticipated. There was no original surge, and now people are beginning to look at recovery. So what does that look like for 2020? What does it look like for 2021, and the impact on student learning? So that's kind of thought number one, and then which blends into the next one's plans for the rest of the year, and then recovery for 2021. Have you maybe not had the time to look at that yet, but have you given it any thought?
Sure. I'm not going to be able to give you a fulsome answer around budget, but I can certainly report back to you at the next meeting. But I can say that we feel like we're still on track for our school and board budgets this year, although there's some places where we may be getting less revenue. For example, there's other places where supply teacher costs is an example of some places that we're not having to put as much budget into. So without giving you the superintendent of business services answer, I feel like we're still in good shape for our budget. Director Daly is here. If he had anything to contribute, he certainly can do so. And there he is. So I can turn
Hi,
it over
folks.
to you.
Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yes, we can.
Might be double. Give me 1 sec. I've got 1 sec. Can you still hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, we can hear you much clearer now.
Okay, sorry, I'm on I'm on a laptop and my phone. So in terms of the kind of the go forward, it's a great question, and Trustee Dwart did a good job explaining kind of our next steps. One of the difficulties that we're facing with regards to next steps is in some ways not knowing what that first next step is going to be. Right now, we're slated. I mean, the current school closure is to be lifted on May 31st. We're not sure whether, in fact, that will happen. So we are in the process of planning for a June return, but we're not quite sure whether we'll be back in June or whether it's going to actually be until September. And if we're not back in June, we're not 100% sure yet what September will look like. Whether by September we can load buses up with 50 students again and put 30 students in a classroom side by side, and those sorts of things. So what we're trying to do is to plan for, look a little bit at what other jurisdictions are doing. We'll be watching Quebec over the next couple of weeks. Certainly our province is watching them over the next couple of weeks, and some of our other partnering provinces who are going back. In terms of the impact on the budget this year, our grant for student needs, the money that we receive, the bulk of the money that we receive from the province, we're still receiving that. In terms of some school fundraising efforts, obviously they've been impacted because we're not in school anymore. There's been a number of programs at the school level that we've begun the process of making refunds, so things like pizza days and other hot lunch programs and things like that. But we're anticipating, hopefully, kind of a no surprises budget for next year. We're assuming that our funding will remain stable, and we don't have that information quite yet, but that's kind of the basis under which we're planning right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much,
Thank
Pat.
you. Thanks, Director Daly. All right, great. I also see Sarah with a hand up.
Hi. So yes, mine was, it was actually more of just a comment. I just wanted to mention my son is in special ed. He's autistic, and I can't tell you how amazing you guys have been. I've been talking to parents from other school boards, and they have gotten nothing, no resources, or having a terrible time. And the special ed, the CERT, everybody has been absolutely amazing. He's gotten so much support. So I just wanted to say that because it's huge compared to other school boards. And I just think you guys need to realize what an amazing job you've done and how much is appreciated by the parents. So that was it.
Thank
All
you.
right,
That's all the kind words. They're very much appreciated. I was certainly will pass that on to the superintendent of special ed, Camilo Cipriano. I know him, and he and his team have been working really hard to try and ensure there's as little disruption as possible for students with special needs. So I'll certainly share that with him. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's much appreciated by us, that's for sure.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Any additional questions for Trustee Dwart or for Jeff? Solomon. Just make sure you unmute yourself, Solomon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the update, Jeff. I have a quick question. Regarding the program the board is currently running, in terms of online and all that classes, if I can recall well, there was a bit of a concern initially when the board, when the government introduced, was trying to introduce some courses online. Now, my question is, has those concerns been taken care of now that we have everything's online now? Can Jeff provide a kind of an update on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we haven't received any further direction from the ministry around the online learning for next year. But if I can look at a silver lining from this, what I can tell you is the capacity that we've built in the last 7 weeks internally with our own staff has been remarkable. We had some stats. One of the primary platforms they use is called D2L. D2L is the ministry supported platform that we use to deliver much of our online content. It's the one in which we deliver our online courses. So the ones that run during day school and summer school is run through D2L. In December, we had about 600 logins from across the system. The most recent stat that we got was that we had over 60,000 logins to the system. So that tells you how much capacity we built, not only with our own teaching and support staff, but how much parents or students are becoming much more comfortable with that. So like the learning that we've had to do in a very short amount of time will definitely benefit us very well as we transition into what that will look like as the ministry rolls out those online courses for secondary. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Jerry, you're still on mute there.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Solomon. Alex, I see your hand up.
So, good evening, everybody. This is great to be able to meet this way. And I want to start by thanking all of you for the hard work that you've been doing and say Happy Catholic Education Week. I think it's something that we never expected, right? But now more than ever, it is so important, right? That we keep that in mind, right? That our schools are distinctively Catholic, and that, as my priest at St. Matthew said, as Catholics, we bring a lot of hope to the world, and we know we're going to get through this. So I have two main questions. One is regarding the teachers. So are there any supports put in place to help the teachers? Because before they were teachers in their classrooms, right? And many of them have children in the system. So now they're not only teachers for their students, but they also have to do the part that the parents have been sharing of the online learning. So I just want to know if there's anything special that they have done regarding that. That's my first question. And the second question that I had is if you have developed any tools or for parent feedback. I know I've had a lot of conversations with parents of children of different ages, like children in JKSK, elementary, parents with high school. I myself have children in university. And as Marvin said, this is uncharted territory. I think we're like kind of paddling there and getting to shore in the best way that we can. But which is the best way? If parents want to give any feedback or parents want to ask any questions, which is the best way to get through the board? I know as CPIC, we were trying to get, like the Facebook page and all the social media going, and it wasn't ready, and we could have never expected this. So which is the best way? Because I know many parents have given me a lot of very good feedback. They're very appreciative of what has been done. And I think many more parents really see the great job that the teachers do. Many more children appreciate going to school now. And well, like just to see how all this is building up and helping in the mental health and the physical health of students, parents, and teachers.
I see.
I can
Dr. Daly, you got your hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Daly, you want to address that?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. I think my advice always to a parent with regards to feedback, and whether that's feedback or concern or a little bit of both, is to if they have feedback for the teacher, to provide that feedback. If they have a concern about how the program might be being carried out, again, to touch base with the teacher. And if it's a concern and they don't think it's satisfactorily met, then they would contact the principal. So just like we would if we were back in face-to-face environment. We did ask for feedback from parents early on in the process, really two kind of basic questions. And one was difficulties people might be having navigating the platforms, because we wanted to troubleshoot a little bit around that. And then we had a bit of a more open-ended forum for parents to make comments. And it was good information for us kind of that first couple of weeks in, because one of the things that we found out, we weren't really surprised by it, but maybe it kind of verified what we were kind of worried about going in, was if there was probably a number one concern, it was the volume of work at some grade levels that students were receiving, that both students and parents felt kind of overwhelmed. Now, that being said, then the next concern was not enough work. But certainly, probably that first couple of weeks, we defaulted maybe a little bit too much to making sure kids were, had lots to do. And so that's something that we've really kind of took to heart. And the feedback was also different, really, in the panels. The feedback from secondary and elementary has been different. And there's no doubt that one of the common messages from parents, certainly at the elementary level, is if their teacher hasn't been engaged in any kind of either real-time instruction, so making a face-to-face connection with the students, or maybe recording a lesson or a message, that parents were hopeful that could increase. So I think we have got better at that over time, and it's certainly something that we're encouraging with our principals as well.
Okay. Thank you, Director Daly.
Could I just answer the other, because Alex, your question was around our teacher well-being as well. It's funny because many of our senior team are married to teachers. So we're certainly mindful ourselves of, and I can tell you, I have a child in grade 1 and grade 4, as I mentioned. I'm very well aware of the challenges of trying to do my day job while educating and entertaining my own children. I think our messaging around teachers is kind of, as Pat said, not overwhelming students, but also staff not feeling overwhelmed themselves. The ministry's given us direction to focus on the core, kind of the key learnings, that they don't feel they have to cover the entire curriculum as we would cover in regular day school. I think the stress level for staff has been decreasing over time with regards to the platform that they're using, sort of the method for which they're going to be delivering content. And now it's more focusing on how can we get better at it, as Director Daly said. But we're certainly, when we meet with our principals regularly, we certainly want them to be getting the pulse of their staff, and to be letting us know if there's things that we can do at a board level to be supporting our teachers and our other support staff, if that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Jeff, for adding those additional comments. Denise, I see your hand up.
Thank you. So I also just wanted to kind of follow up on what was just being spoken about on the thread of sort of how the teachers are doing and sort of pressure and things like that. My interest is sort of coming when again with uncharted territory and the return to school, and we don't know whether that's going to be June or in September. What the board is doing from a mental health framework in terms of preparing students from that framework to return to school, because I realize that June would be a really short time, and I think the point has been made really well about students that don't have as much face time with their teachers in the classroom, and what the changes that will bring again, from seeing them in the classroom, then not seeing them necessarily all the time, and then going back, and just everything that's gone on from the COVID information and news and everything else. So I guess in a nutshell, is there any preparation going on currently for the return to school from a mental wellness perspective? Thank you.
Sure, and I'll do my best to answer that question. Jerry and I were part of a conference call last week with parent pictures, parent involvement committee from across the province, and really the ministry was just gathering information. And part of what I think that what they heard was that there will definitely need to be more supports around mental health now and for when we return. So I think they're definitely hearing that loud and clear. Without knowing, to be honest, too many of the specifics, I do know that it is something that is already being thought of by Camilo's team, as I mentioned earlier. So as they were working to get up to speed on how they can provide direct support for students now, they're also turning their mind to what they can do to develop a plan to support students as they transition back to school in whatever kind of format that's going to look like.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, thank you. And Joel, I see your hand up.
Hi, everyone. funny to meet everyone like this. My question is to Jeff or Pat. Reading the news that our situation isn't going to be a one-off crisis situation. I'm wondering, is the board going to put together any kind of committee or any kind of a formalized process so that parents, teachers, students can have an input on this e-learning, distance learning format? Because I understand it was put together on the fly, and I'm going to give you guys a lot of kudos and a lot of props that it's worked well. But I do know that some parents are concerned that because it's not working, they might have had a different mental idea of how it was going to work, and in reality, it's much different. Especially as the news is always telling us that we're going to be doing this in waves until a vaccine is found. So who knows? This time next year we might be going back into isolation. Who knows? But I'm just wondering if the board is going to put together any kind of formalized committee so that we can make this better going forward.
So it goes to what Marvin and Pat were speaking about a little bit earlier. Like, I think now that we've kind of developed a framework that works for now, we can start to reflect on what we can do to make it work better. And if we're to move into a period like this again, I can tell you we would definitely be much better prepared to get it up and running. But we also definitely want to take the opportunity to learn from the challenges that we've faced, some of the mistakes that we made along the way, to make sure that we're much more efficient should we have to move into. So I can't speak to a specific committee around that, but I do know we will definitely want to get feedback to make sure that if or when we move into something like this again, we're better prepared, all of us as a Halton Catholic School Board community, to do even better next time, if there is a next time. So I hear your point, and definitely know that we've started those conversations for sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Andrea, I see your hand is up. I think that's again, correct?
That's again, thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, my question is really for Jeff or Pat. Overarching, as you start to think about recovery, and let's assume you go back in September of 2020, do you think the Ministry of Education will be providing consistent guiding and guidance on reopenings, similar to the way they're not education, but other ministries are doing for other industries? And are you working directly with public health on that?
I can start that, and then if Director Daly wants to chime in, so through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we work directly. We have regular, I want to say almost daily conversations with Halton Health. We certainly, anytime we have a decision to make around the things that would impact student health or staff health, we're in direct contact with them. Pat is involved in weekly teleconferences with the Deputy Minister of Education, and we kind of receive our updates that way as to the way things might be going. And so part of a provincial working group that way. And so, yeah, so the short answer to your question is yes. Yes, we are definitely going to have a real concrete plan in place that'll be working with the Ministry of Education and with Halton Health.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really good to hear, the answers that you have. I just have something that I've noticed, we've been through different stages. The first stages of, getting used to this e-learning, but right now I think we're in the learning curve, and I agree with Joe that we really, I feel as a parent and from the people that are around me, like we need kind of a frequently asked questions thing about the Google Classroom and the D2 learning. My finding, and what people sometimes find the difficulties, if you have 3 children or 4 children in your classroom and 2 of them are using one system, right, and the other one, it's very hard for the parent to get their head around. And also it was consistency, right? We have to make this sustainable. At least for 1 month more, the parents will have to deal with this. And I was finding, and we were talking about it, I only have 1 child right now in the Catholic schools, and my children are in university, but they find it very hard because there's not like a schedule. And I know it's not the ideal and we need the flexibility, but they find it's hard because each child receives direction on a different day. Okay, let me explain it. For example, there's teachers that on Sunday night or Monday, they send everything for the week. There might be others that on Tuesday, on Thursday, and that's bringing a little bit of stress on the parents, because if there was like a date set, then you can plan your week. They find it's very difficult to do it. And I think we've all gone through this, like when one or two computers are at the same time being used in meetings or in online learning, that the internet, not every internet can have that amount of computers. So it is a quite a challenge for parents. I know it from the point of view of the high school children, like my son. He's pretty much independent. And I sometimes would like a little more routine, right? A little more of a schedule to have a start of the day and the end. But I know this is preparing him for university and it's going to be good at the end. But I find with especially the middle, the children in elementary, they need a lot of guidance, a grade 2, a grade 3. They really need the parents to be helping them out. And they're finding these two, that some of them have the D2L and the other ones that have the Google Classrooms, to find it a little bit challenging for them just to be able to understand it, to get in touch with the teachers, and to really manage those platforms well.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I see Director Daly has his hands up, and Vince as well. Director Daly, would you like to address?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Alex, the concern you raise about multiple platforms in one school or one household is something that we've certainly heard from parents. So like you said, you might have two students in an elementary school, one in grade 3, one in grade 6, and they're on two different platforms. You could have students in high school, one on Google, one on D2L, one using some Office 365 application. That has been a struggle for us. We decided when we did kind of open up the distance learning that we did have a number of staff at all levels that had already had some online presence, some virtual learning presence. So rather than forcing them off something that they had been using, we allowed people to stay on Google if Google was their management system of choice, and then encouraged kind of new adopters to go to D2L for a lot of reasons. One of which is it is supported by the ministry. It's the one that our board can best support from a PD perspective and also kind of from a tech perspective. But that's been an ongoing struggle, that issue of a couple of different platforms. As students and parents get a little bit more used to the platforms, that's helped a little bit. But I think the other thing you bring up about maybe only having a computer or two available, and you might have a couple of kids and then an adult in the house all vying for the same computer, that kind of speaks to the difficulty of having a set schedule or having that real live face-to-face learning where you're expecting the whole class to be online at that time, because some students can't. So it's one of the advantages of having some flexibility around it. And for sure, the plans that the government and the ministry have for online learning at the secondary level for mandatory credits, that's really what they were anticipating. I don't think at any point so far they were anticipating students in grade 1 being at home all day long and participating in some sort of distance learning. So that part of the equation was kind of new experience for everybody, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Daly. Vince, did you have something to add there?
Yes, can you hear me, Jerry?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I know that Superintendent Kroll and Director Daly, they've hit on a lot of key points, but just at a school level, and I just want to make some additions to what they mentioned as well too. I think as everything first started, the staff have been phenomenal, but at the beginning it was getting going with what the platform was, and teachers, educators, EA, certs, everyone was all hands on deck, and we're all learning new platforms, and everyone was really trying their best to assist the children, and they wanted to almost work equally as hard as each other, if non-classroom teacher to classroom teacher. And as we're getting more familiar and more comfortable, we're trying to refine our practice so that we're sticking to the guidelines of the 5 hour, the 10 hour, and having like a real conversations with trusted colleagues to know how much they're doing and what they're doing. And I've spoken to our, PTMs or our arts teachers, and we've come up with some, like, everything can be done through literacy. So what the science teacher can contribute through literacy, so they eases off some of the things that the homeroom teacher has been doing. But kudos to the staff for what we've done in the weeks that have led up to this. So we're only getting better and better. And a constant message I've heard from our senior team, we don't want to stress anybody out. We want to provide challenging or engaging, let's say engaging activities to students rather than rote things that will take up time. We do want to foster independence and things that they might not need to do all on the laptop. But I think as the weeks go on, you'll see that continuing to get better. And I've stressed, and again, it's come from Pat all down through our meetings, is the communication with home. And it might not be in a survey, but it might be in a conversation. How are things going? Is there anything you need help with? And doing that all the same time, and recognizing that our staff, as they are very fortunate and appreciate the work that they're doing right now to help our students, they're also going through it too at the same time. So some of these things that you're seeing from a parent perspective, I think the teachers and all educators and all departments have done so much in so little time that as we get better at this format, we'll refine our practice and continue to evolve for all of our families at school. And I do like, Alex, what you said too about the week at a glance. I think that as a parent with 2 elementary age students at home, that benefits Lily and I. What we set up a week and we see what our son's week is going to be like, and then we kind of go from there. Again, we've had those conversations. I think most of my staff, anyways, is going towards that way, but it does help out as well too. So I just want to reiterate that I think everyone is doing a fantastic job in the middle of a pandemic, keeping our students engaged, and we're just refining our practice day by day, hour by hour of what things going on. But what I'm continuing to tell my staff is just be patient, be calm, and keep in constant communication with your students in your class, and we'll kind of all get through this together. Thank you.
Great. Yep. Thank you, Vince. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. We're seeing lots of great things from in a very difficult situation, no doubt. Thank you for everyone's continued efforts. Denise, I'm going to give Denise last word on this topic, and then we will move on. Denise, go ahead.
Thank you. And I just wanted to follow up a little bit on what Vince was saying. As someone who's currently teaching online, using a different format, I'm using a Google platform format, and the steep learning curve that it takes. I was lucky enough to have some background before this sort of started where I work currently, but I can appreciate the challenges and the learning curve for the teachers. So he's made an excellent point about this is sort of, it goes along as you develop as you go along, and you get better as the comfort level with the learning platform continues. My question though was, will there be any comparative in terms of using, I realize what Director Daly said in terms of the D2L and the ministry supported, and I have the chance to work at it at home with my own child, but being proficient on Google Classroom myself, I'm just wondering, will there be any comparative going forward by the board to take a look at the 2 platforms and giving teachers, especially at the secondary level, any options to continue forward with Google Classroom if they so choose to do so? It's their comfort. Just a question.
And sorry, Denise, who are you hoping to answer that?
So sorry. I guess it would be Jeff or Pat, Director Daly, just in terms of comparative, looking at a comparative of the two learning platforms and saying in the future, is the board just going to D2L as a board decision, or is the board going to be open to looking at Google Classroom for those teachers who, especially in high school, are currently comfortable with that platform, and allowing them to expand upon it, or it's going to be D2L across the board going forward?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can kind of jump in, and Jeff's certainly more of a knowledgeable in this than I am, but we haven't directed teachers not to use Google if they're using Google. It's interesting. I mean, some boards are Google boards. That's their platform of choice, and that's really the only one they support. There's advantages, obviously, and challenges regardless of the platform that you use. We certainly don't want people to stop the good work that they're doing on whatever platform they're using. There are advantages, obviously, to having consistency to what teachers are using. And it's a little bit about those people that were kind of earlier adopters in terms of using an online system. That's something they've become familiar with and comfortable with, and now it's a little bit intuitive. So to move from one to another, it might kind of stifle some of the good work they're doing. So we're not at a point now where we're kind of forcing people into anything, but D2L is the platform that, at least from an IT perspective, we can best support. So for teachers that might be in a Google environment, it just might be that we can't support it from an IT perspective in the same way. That doesn't mean that they can't continue with it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Shelley. Jeff, I see you had your hand up. Did you wish to add to that, or?
Director Daly said it as probably better than I would have said it, so that was well done. Just with regard to Alex's questions around sacraments, that definitely is something we are in conversation with the diocese about. So we'll have more information kind of jointly to share with parent communities as we're kind of grappling with that. And with regard to graduations for both grade 8 and grade 12, we are thinking about those, working on those, not only within our own board, but in kind of in cooperation with the province and with other boards as well, as to how we can provide some meaningful graduation for those grade 8s and grade 12s.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, thank you everyone for the terrific questions, and thank you also Director Daly and Jeff for taking those full on and giving your best responses. So we could probably discuss all evening long, I'm sure, but we will wrap that topic for now. We do have other business to attend to, but rest assured, of course, everyone, the dialogues will continue, and as Director Daly pointed out, do use the appropriate methods of escalation for raising feedback, concerns, questions, and so on. Okay. Okay, our next agenda item, and thank you, Mark, Claire, for joining us from the HCCEF, and thank you for your patience while we work through that very important point of conversation. So we've asked Mark to join us, and we were in discussion prior to this meeting to having Mark out to talk about ways that we could look to partner with HCCEF. How CPIC and its mandate can help support and work together with Mark and his mandate. And now the timing probably couldn't be any better, because I think the need is becoming more and more acute for the support of HCCF. So Mark, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And we do have some slides to go through. Mark, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Okay, or I can share mine. It's up to you. But if you're comfortable, please do go ahead.
Yeah, just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I think I'm sharing. Am I sharing my screen?
You are.
Excellent. And can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Maybe
for-
maybe you don't want to see me. Well, I'll turn my camera off and then you can just hear me. How's that?
That's fine.
Great.
And for questions, I think I'll just ask everyone to hold them for the discussion part at the end.
So thank you very much. As Jerry had mentioned, Jerry and Trustee Duarte and I actually had a great conversation back on March 10th. And as you all know, later on that week, things kind of blew up. And we started the conversation around, what are some opportunities for the Children's Foundation and for CPIC to potentially work together to help build and grow the capacity of the Children's Foundation so we can help more students and families in need. I recognize a number of names on the participant list here today, so I know a number of people are familiar with the Children's Foundation. I don't want to assume that everyone is familiar with the Children's Foundation, so I'm just going to highlight a couple things of what we're all about. So our mission is that we do help HCDSP students to succeed at school by providing financial support to families in need. And our vision is that all students have equitable opportunities at school, regardless of their financial barriers to learning. So we are an independent charitable organization. We're registered with the Canada Revenue Agency. We do partner with the school board to support students and families in financial need. The funding we get to do that is done through different fundraising initiatives, whether it's events, corporate donations, individual donations. The funding or the support we receive from the school board is in kind, and that's been really, really helpful. My office space, my laptop, IT support, financial services, some communication support with our upcoming rebrand. All of that is really, really helpful. Our financials are audited each year and available on our website. So, as Jerry had alluded to earlier, the need is definitely ramped up. So for those of people that are not familiar with how the application process goes, a school will identify a student or family in need, and then they can apply to the Children's Foundation for financial assistance. And so right now, lots of neighbors experiencing job loss, lots of single-parent families who are having challenges buying food, newcomer families in the same situation. A number of parents that aren't able to work due to illness, or maybe they're at high risk of contracting COVID-19, so they're not able to work. And so right now, we have been focusing mainly on supporting families with basic necessities. And so once the school has received approval for their application, then they are able to utilize their school credit card to purchase gift cards for the family, and then we issue a check back to the school as a reimbursement of those expenses. So here's the needs by the numbers. So if you look at March and April of 2019, we helped 25 families, and in those 25 families, we helped 30 students. March and April of 2020, that jumped by 370% to 92 families, and the number of students helped jumped by 710% to 215 families. So just to give that some perspective, over the past three, not including this past fiscal because it's a bit of an anomaly, but over the previous 3 fiscal years, we averaged in and around 200 students per year. So when you have over 200 students in a 2-month period, that gives you some perspective as far as how many students have been helped in that short time frame. So our plan. So when we learned that the schools will be closing, we did reach out to all the principals and vice principals and said, "Hey, we're still operating. Please keep us in mind if your families are going to need some assistance." At the time, recognizing that there was a lot of school-based community food programs, Halton Food for Thought and Food for Kids that students were really dependent on. And, at the time we thought that, there would be some additional expenses for childcare and what have you. And obviously that changed with all the childcares closing. And we did reach out after March break as well, just to remind principals and vice principals that, hey, we're here. If you need some assistance, please keep us in mind. And as you see by the numbers on the previous slide, that certainly was the case. So we have been able to continue to say yes to the applications that have been coming in, and we want to continue to do that. And so we've developed a plan in conjunction with our volunteer board of directors. So right now, and some of you may have seen some information on this, right now we're in the middle of an urgent appeal. So we've been doing some connecting with people in our donor database. We're doing some online promotions, some Facebook ads. And luckily, we have a donor who wants to remain anonymous, but a donor who is willing to do a donation match of up to $10,000. So for every donation dollar that comes in, they will match up to $10,000 in total. So as of today, we're actually about $8,000 towards that goal, which is fantastic. The other piece of our plan is that the 24-hour fast. So originally that was scheduled as part of Lent during Holy Week, and we obviously needed to reschedule that. So that has been rescheduled for June 3rd to 4th. Similar to a walkathon or runathon, it is, this is actually a virtual event where people would join a team and then they would ask their peers to sponsor them for doing this 24-hour fast. So it's great because you can be at home. You can use what you want to fast from. Maybe it's food or electronics or something else. You can fast when you want. You can start in the AM or you can start in the PM of June 3rd, and you can choose where you want to fast. Obviously, most of us are stuck at home nowadays, but for those people that maybe are traveling out to workplaces, that's certainly an option as well. Our fall events, so our golf tournament usually happens in June. That has been rescheduled to September 30th, and then our Evening with Bishop Crosby event is still scheduled for November 4th. We'll continue to plan as if those will happen, but obviously nobody really knows what's going to happen, so we may need to pivot and adjust. We may need to, a lot of charities are reworking fundraising into more of a virtual type of event, similar to our 24-hour fast. And then the other source of revenue that we're be working on is different grants to different foundations, corporations, family foundations as well. Areas that we are looking for some help. And so this is the whole part of the discussion that Jerry and Marvin and I started having is looking at how can we grow the capacity to continue to say, yes, we can help you to students and families in need. And so we identified two areas that we think can be really helpful to grow that capacity. Connections with parents and connections to corporations, which can be done through those parents as well, in large part. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I guess I'm open to any questions that people may have.
Okay, Trustee Duarte, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, just a comment here. I've been fortunate and lucky to be on the foundation for the past 3 years. 3 years now, yes. And I presently sit on the disbursement committee, so I literally know where the money comes in and how they get disbursed. And it is very touching to reach out, to be able to help some families. So as CPIC committee members, I'd like to request each one of us to take the message away that we have the foundation available to help our own children in need. And if possible, if each one of us can support in our own ways That would be really amazing. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you for that, Trustee Duarte. Trustee O'Brien.
Thank you, through you, Jerry. Thank you for an excellent presentation. Again, the foundation, I think, is an excellent way of reaching out as part of our compassion piece for the Catholic Board. In this time of this pandemic, I know there's a lot of probably more needy families that are lost in the shuffle only because they don't have as much access to technology. Besides the board website, are there other ways they can find out about the foundation and how to access it?
Thanks, Trustee O'Brien. So I guess that's part of the discussion that Jerry and Marvin and I were hoping to have with this group. Is I mean, we have been focusing over the past number of years on trying to create more awareness. It's a big part of what we've been doing, and I think that we've had some success. But I think that we're looking to take things up another level to hopefully create more awareness within the broader Catholic community, Halton Catholic community, and part of that is within the parent group. I mean, there's a number of parent groups that have attended the bishop's dinner, or have heard about the foundation at council of chairs meetings, and I think that's been really helpful to have those opportunities. So I guess the conversation we're hoping to have here is how do we bring things up another level and connect with parents on a broader basis.
Yeah, thank you for that. Trustee O'Brien, hand up again.
Thank you, Jerry. I want to just respond to that. I'm thinking of the families that just are so probably buried in right now. There's so much tension, probably economically. If they're a bit dysfunctional before, they may be more dysfunctional. I'm thinking maybe one way to reach out is one thing they all get is a school email. I know it's hard because it's almost like it's easier to reach out to people who aren't in need because they're so in touch with technology anyway. But those families, they could be a little poor maybe from other countries. Their English may not be as right on. I wonder if the school email is an avenue, because they all do get that.
Jeff, wish to respond?
Yeah, Tim, that's a great point. And Vince, maybe you can kind of have Monica can maybe kind of help with this. I know that's been some of the messaging that we've been providing for our schools to reach out to families to indicate if they do need help, that part of the initial reach out to see if families needed technology was not only about technology, but what other supports they might need. And I know that a number of our schools have been delivering food, delivering gift cards, delivering gift cards, providing that sort of support. So I'm confident to say that our principals will continue to do that good work to support families in need, and to encourage families who are struggling to identify that they are struggling. And we're providing a lot of the information around community resources as well, so that families are aware that not only can they get help from the school, but also that there's other places in the community that can support them as well. So we can certainly reiterate that message.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I concur with that, Jeff. It's Mark again. I concur with that, Jeff, and I think that the conversations I've had with principals and vice principals and social workers, guidance counselors over the past number of weeks is that yes, they have been regularly reaching out to their school communities to see if they need assistance, and we recognize that we are just a piece of that community assistance for those families, and whether it's other food programs, or whether it's social workers connecting them with the resources that they need to, or a child and youth worker those are all excellent resources that the schools are connecting with families on. So I think that the schools have done a great job from my perspective, anyways, as far as reaching out to all of their school community to see if they need assistance in any way.
Okay, very good. Okay, so to further the discussion and just again picking up from where our conversation with myself, Mark, and Marvin left off, we were brainstorming some ideas as to how CPIC could play a role, and by extension, potentially our school councils. So that was one area of discussion we thought we'd like to have in this meeting, was to get, I mean, and again, we're not going to solve this tonight, obviously, folks. This is going to require a little more thought and time and planning, and perhaps is better ultimately suited for one of our subcommittees to tackle, our outreach subcommittee in further detail. However, just to get a sense from the committee, the larger committee, as to are we on side with going down a path of exploring how else we can lend support and gain build awareness such that we can get more parents engaged, get local businesses engaged, and get the funding that's required really to meet the demand both now and in the future. So I throw that out as a discussion point, and please, anyone, feel free to chime in as to initial thoughts on that. So again, the concept of our committee, our subcommittee, and by extension working with the school councils and getting more engagement and awareness. Joel, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I disconnected earlier. I had some connection issues on my end. But on that note, Jerry, it might be prudent not just for the Catholic Fund, Children's Fund point of view, but maybe even just more of a help school councils on a fundraising endeavor overall. Because I know that it's a topic that every school council deals with. They come up with ideas to fundraise, and it's one of those things that maybe we could help a little bit more in terms of brainstorming with them, or to kind of maybe get across fundraising, not necessarily a committee, but just sharing practices, that kind of thing, and even maybe try to make a pledge with our school councils to dedicate at least one fundraiser a school year dedicated towards the HCCEF. I don't know if we can force that, but I think it'd be a good, see if we can have some school councils do a pledge of at least one fundraiser a year for the cause.
Thank you, Joel. No, it's a good thought starter there. Thank you. Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and very interesting. To the point on fundraisers and messages and how CPIC can help, I'm just thinking earlier in our last conversation about the number of refunds that are going out to parents. And frankly, if someone had said to me, in lieu of a refund, would you be prepared to redirect this to the foundation? My answer would be yes. And I realize I'm just kind of throwing that out there, but maybe something to think about.
Right, that's a very interesting point, Andrea, because when we look at this challenge that's before us, again, there's now the kind of the near term, the immediate kind of need of a bit of a spike in need, and then there's also the longer term view of kind of like along the lines of what Joel's suggesting is for future activities. I like that, Andrea. Let's see if we can't do something with that. Not sure logistically how we go about that, but it's certainly something to take away. Alex.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that what Jose is great, because at this point, I don't think like each school working for themselves can be as effective as the foundation helping everybody. We really need however, how long this takes, we need a really like integral picture to be able to help the families. And the truth is, some families have children in different schools, right? So that would be great. One of my questions was, how can we at this point, or how are we getting in connection with the school councils right now? Are they having meetings online, or how can we as CPIC really like figure out a new way of engaging the parents with these new circumstances? So that is a great idea, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great, Alex. Yeah, you're right. We're in a different situation now, so it speaks to just a greater need for how do we stay engaged and how do we stay, relevant to our school councils. Thank you, Sarah.
Mark, I actually just gave you a follow on Instagram. So what I would love to do is help you really harness social media as a way to get people to know more about you and to know what you're doing and stuff like that. I did a big fundraising for Halton Children's Aid that was very successful just from community through social media. So if you want to send me a message, I'm more than happy to help you on that side of it, because that's something we can immediately start to put into effect, where some of these other things might take some more time.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Sarah. Great for the offer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Just making notes as we go here as well. Okay, I'm just checking our chat. Thank you, Jeff, for offering to take Andrew's suggestion away to the senior team. Terrific. Okay, and thank you also for adding to Alex's comment around engagement with school councils. That's great. Okay. One of the things we talked about, I'll chime in myself here, is as part of school councils, having someone on council, for lack of a better term, accountable for HCCF, as kind of having as part of their mandate, whether they be part of the community reps responsibility or something along those lines. And I wanted to solicit a bit of input and thought on that. Any remarks on that concept, making it part of a job description, if you will, for the community rep on a given council. Okay, no particular thoughts on that. That's okay. Again, this is something that we can take away and further, kind of flesh out a plan as to how. But it's certainly. Thank you, Joel. I got one thumbs up there. But certainly, it sounds overwhelmingly like there is strong support, Mark, for our involvement and our support of the foundation with both within our committee as well as to further engage the school councils. Jeff, your hand is up.
I think it's a good suggestion. We do typically have staff reps on each of our school staffs that are kind of liaise with HCCF, so they could be working together, kind of partnership. Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion. Something that certainly could be part of one of the roles on a Catholic school council. So yeah, I'm in support of that. All right, terrific.
Yeah, our thoughts around that. Just again, the three of us chatting, was that it needs to kind of sit somewhere. It has to be kind of on someone's plate, oftentimes for it to gain traction. So one of those things that if everyone's responsible, then no one's responsible. But if we make one person accountable and responsible, that we're more likely to see some traction. So that was the basic premise there. Joel.
Yeah, Jerry, on that thought, would it be prudent to put a general job description together, or do we have to go into our bylaws to amend an official role for that to be official? Because the last thing you want is for it to fall through the wayside or fall through the cracks. I'm kind of talking off the top of my head here, but the position would be great to help the principal in identifying families in need, rather than just solely the principal's purview. Just to get to, I think it goes to the idea of like we're a Catholic community and like we're supposed to help those who are less fortunate than ourselves. I'm kind of spitballing here. I don't have an exact idea, but I just think it would be good to put a clear agenda so people know exactly what it is that they're doing, whether to be advising the principal on parents who might need that help, as well as to coordinate, maybe a fundraiser, or at least just to let the schools know that this foundation exists. I think a lot of it is just awareness to the average Catholic family parent. They might not know that this exists. It might just be a bit of awareness to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple things there in your comments. The first one being, and I think we're pretty clear on having someone with responsibility or the role of being that champion for HCCF, so that the awareness grows, the fundraising dollars, thereby over time increase, and kind of being that champion at the school council level. As far as the mechanics of it and supporting the principal and the other admin that would be involved in the administration of it, I think that's a separate thing. And correct me, Mark and Jeff, if I'm wrong, but there's obviously, as you could imagine, there's a high degree of sensitivity around privacy and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of stuff would remain at the administrative level. And would that be fair to say, Jeff?
Sorry, yes, I would agree that that's something that we definitely have to put some thought into. We've got a principal on this committee as well that could maybe give it some thought and then give us some feedback. With regard to the bylaws, I did take a quick look when you asked that question. I have to take a bit of a deeper dive to see if it's something we need to amend in the bylaws, but I can certainly, take a look and get back to you on that. Good thinking, Joel.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was the other point too, is how does this work with, because you're right, it just, kind of giving it some teeth, as you will. It needs to be documented somewhere that it's, sits on a particular role on the councils. So yeah, we'll come back, we'll circle back on that one. Okay. All right, terrific. I think we could probably cap it there, because I think Mark, hopefully mission accomplished here. You sounds like you've got resounding support for your efforts there, and we'll do all in our power to contribute and grow the awareness and the success of the foundation over time.
That's wonderful. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's feedback, and thank you so much for the opportunity to come chat with you a little bit tonight. And I love some of the ideas that are coming out, and I think we've got some good direction to get started here anyways.
Yep. Terrific. Thank you very much, Mark, again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and be well, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Okay. Okay, so moving on, item number 6. I believe we've kind of included this in at the outset of the meeting, unless there was anything in addition, Jeff, that you wanted to address separately here.
Sorry, no, I'm good. I think we've covered that in a lot of detail. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. Okay, so moving on then, item number 7, feedback on the policy and procedures around Catholic school councils and CPIC. So if Jeff, if you'd like to take the lead on that,
Sure.
to summarize what they are. Everyone's had a chance to look at them and provide some individual feedback, I do believe.
Yeah.
But Jeff, if you would.
Thank you, Jerry. Through you, Mr. Chair, I did want to kind of thank all of you that gave feedback. There was a number of you that were able to provide some feedback on the policy. The trustees are very interested to hear what you have to say. When the proposed changes were brought to the policy and the procedure at our last policy meeting, they felt that you members of CPIC would have a unique perspective on the proposed changes, and certainly would like to hear a summary of that at the next policy meeting. So our intention was to give you a chance to provide feedback to Jerry and I, and I've kind of working on collating that for the policy meeting for next week. I'll send you a summary of that as well. But also to have an opportunity to put it out for discussion right now. Sometimes it's easier to have a discussion rather than just via email around the proposed changes. So just a reminder, some of the changes that we proposed were increasing the number of trustees from 2 to 4. We talked about increasing the number of non-Catholic members on both of our CPIC and school councils. We talked about making a requirement for schools to review their bylaws, not a bylaw review, a formal process, but to make sure that each school council member was aware of the school council bylaws at the beginning of each meeting. So that's kind of a summary of, I think, the largest changes. And I'll just throw it open for conversation around what those proposed changes were.
And perhaps if we could take them, in turn, perhaps Jeff.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, your choice. Which one would you like to tackle first?
I think the one that people probably want to talk most about, to be honest, is the number of non-Catholic members. So maybe we'll start with that one first.
Sure. And Trustee O'Brien, I see you have your hand up. Did you want to speak to that first, or was there something else?
I'll speak to that, and also in that phrase that Superintendent Kroll mentioned, it says not only do we go from 2 to 4 non-Catholics, but also that it used to say the guardians of Catholic children attending said school, but now it's crossed out Catholic and just put children. So the new phrase will read in the procedure, election up to 4 non-Catholic parents of children attending said school. I guess in general, it's a kind of a general statement. I mean, it's kind of like the frog in the boiling pot. I mean, it's like a teeny bit every year. We seem to be chipping away at the Catholicism of our parent councils, and it looks like a little thing, but a little bit things added up over time do make a big thing. And I'm just not sure we need to just take this away. I know we have a large non-Catholic population in our schools, but I guess I look at the hope is more that they'll come to the Catholic Church rather than us just kind of adopting to them. So I'll just start off by saying that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. And I think I'm just considering how to proceed on this this topic right now, because I do see Chair Tomasi has his hand up, Trustee Dort has his hand up, and we want to get the perspective of the board, but I do think also for the purposes of this discussion, the board is coming to us for our input. So I'm concerned. I'll just say it plainly. I'm just concerned about we don't want certainly a rehash of a board discussion. Rather, there should be CPIC discussing, right, and sharing. Yeah. Is that a fair comment, folks?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I want to present a couple of numbers. That's it. I'm going to present some numbers. I just want to present some numbers since we're talking about numbers here. I'm not talking in the discussion.
So perhaps Trustee Duarte, if you'd make a brief statement.
Okay. So
Chair Tomasi as well, and then we'll have our discussion.
Okay, Mr. Chair. So we are proposing to change the numbers from 2 to 4. Okay. So many of the school councils do have about 8 members. Eight members on the school council. Depending on the school size. So if we are proposing to change from 2 to 4, that means 50% of the school council will be non-Catholics if you go by this thing. And that means if you have the further down this procedure says chair and co-chair to be Catholic. So if you take out of the 4 people that remain Catholic, you take out 2, then 2 will be chair and co-chair. That means 2 members will remain and then 4 non-Catholic members. So I'm just presenting the numbers and how it's going to look. I won't get into a discussion because I'll leave the discussion for the board table. But I'm just presenting the numbers to you as they stand. Same thing goes with with the numbers which changed from 2 to 4 on this very council, the Catholic Parent Involvement Committee, if you change from 2 to 4, you can see the difference that's going to happen. And I don't know whether we need to go there, but that's a different discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Duarte. I'm going to give the floor now to Chairman Intomasi and then to Father Francis. Go ahead, Chair Intomasi. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you have your mute, if you're still muted. Yeah, Vince, I think you still might be on mute. Okay, we'll go to Father Francis in the meantime.
I just want to know, what is the background of this change of number? Why is the change? What is the proposed change? I do understand 2 to 4, but what is the background or what is the problem as of now? If there is no problem, what is the need for change?
Okay, thank you, Father. I think Jeff, you'd like to address that?
Sure, I can answer that. The rationale was based on feedback we were hearing from schools. What we were hearing from schools was one of two issues. Some issues were that they've had significant interest from parents that want to be involved in the Catholic School Council in some years, and reported they have more non-Catholic parents wishing to be part of council than our positions are available. And the second one is that some schools have really struggled to find enough parents to make a healthy council and feel they're sometimes limited by not being allowed to allow more non-Catholic parents. So that was the thinking, that was the rationale behind the proposed changes to the procedure. That was what we had discussed at the senior team level.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up, Father?
Sure, but again, not to get into argument or other things, my understanding, I may be totally wrong, but my understanding is the maximum we can put is, at least in the elementary level, I'm thinking maybe 20 to 80% of the parents are non-Catholic and Catholic, 80% are Catholic, but if we can't find 8 or 9 people in that 80% of the population, then what kind of commitment does the parents have for the school or for their children? So really, I don't understand the real logic behind, because given any school, even if they are a 40% to 60%, still if we cannot find 6 to 2 per person, as Marvin was saying, if there are 8%, we need only 6%. If we cannot find out of 60 parents or 60% of the parents, we can't find 6 people, then what kind of school are we running?
Can I respond to that?
Certainly.
Father Francis, with all due respect, having been a school principal and a number of councils at different schools, it's not a matter of the type of school that we're running. It's a matter of, we have parents often that are very busy, and sometimes we 1 year are able to commit the time required to be a school council member, and other years we really struggle. And I can tell you from year to year, sometimes the same school community, it was very different as to terms of the interest that we would have within our school councils. Despite best efforts by school council members and by school administration to kind of encourage, beat the bushes to get parents out and involved. I mean, at the end of the day, all of this is about parent involvement. We want parent involvement for our community as much as possible. But I will tell you that some of our very good principals do struggle sometimes to get members to come out for school council.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Chairman Intomasi, are you on with us now? Okay. I see your comment there, Chair. You're not muted. Unfortunately, I can't hear you. Can others hear Chairman Intomasi?
No.
No.
No. Okay. No, I'm sorry.
No, can't hear him.
I'm sorry, Chairman. We just simply can't hear you.
Jerry, maybe you should call back in.
Yeah, certainly try that. So, Chairman Intomasi, if you wouldn't mind. I see your comment there, Jeff. You're as the organizer. Are you able to unmute?
No, I'm not. I see the options here that I can mute him. From what I can see, he is unmuted. So that's why I'm thinking it's probably just a glitch. So Chair and Tim Massey, if you can log yourself out, I can invite you back in and hopefully that will clear up the issue.
Okay. Meanwhile, we'll proceed with the committee's discussion now. Okay, just scrolling back, I believe, Alex, you had your hand up first.
Yes, let me unmute myself. Can you hear me there?
Yes, I can, Alex. And folks, could we keep our comments fairly concise, please?
Yes.
And if you have a proposal for a way forward for the policy or procedure, please state it clearly. But let's keep it tight. Thank you.
I think I have 3 points. The first one is our schools are distinctively Catholic, and that's something that we really have to protect. And that's a treasure that we have. I didn't grow up here. I know this Catholic system is amazing. And I think that part of the parents have the choice to go to their public school or their Catholic, and they've chosen the Catholic for a reason. So I think that distinctively Catholic is the reason why people come to. The second is I know there's a diversity of parents. There's a lot of non-Catholic parents. I had my experience at the RCIA, and many of them, are really interested in joining the Catholic faith because they've seen their children, right? So I think, honestly, and this is my personal view right now, I think this is not the time to do this change. I think really with this pandemic, parent engagement is gonna change. We're gonna see a real shift. And I know the school councils over the years, I've been in CPIC for 9 years, they've had that problem of finding people to be in the school councils. I know they have more non-Catholic parents being there, but I think this situation right now is a waking call for parents. And many of the things that I've heard from parents is they want to be involved. And the third thing is a CPIC, we really need to, before changing everything that is there, look at what the school council looks like. Right, so at the school council, we have, the chair, the co-chair, they now should only stay for 3 years. Before there were some chairs that stayed for 10 years, which was really hard for people to join the councils. And we have parish reps there that I think also, have a role to play in the faith. And sometimes this part of the Catholicity and of the faith, I found it hard to be one of the important things in the school council. So if we can look at what the school councils should look like and how part of our job, at CPIC, and I talk for me personally, is to help safeguard this Catholicity because it's really what makes us distinct. And it's really a gift that we have to share with the world.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Andrea.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. And through the chair, when I read it, and I take the point on ratio and things like that. I felt that, if finding Catholic participants is a problem, and you've got people who've chosen to put their children in the school system, and they want to be engaged and participate, then enabling that I thought was a good thing to do. Just being more inclusive. I mean, you could have certain parameters around it. It could be 3 instead of 4. I take the point on this is maybe not the time to do that now. I don't think that's our decision, but someone else's. But that was my perspective.
No, thank you, Andrea. Let me do say though, this is the time for us to, provide the input that the board is looking for. So it's absolutely incumbent upon us to do exactly what we're doing right now. So by all means, let the opinions, and thoughts, and our arguments be heard. Joel.
Yeah, I would just argue that the last thing we want is to ostracize or prevent parents who are passionate about our school communities from getting involved. If they, any parent who sends their child, especially in the elementary level, to our schools, know what they're getting into. We're a Catholic institution. They understand that all the curriculum is taught through a Catholic lens, and I would argue that that's probably part of the reason why they send their kids here, or that they've accepted that that's part of the curriculum. I would just hate to think that we're losing good talent and good parents who are looking to make the schools a better place because of this. I don't think we're going to lose any distinctiveness about the system if we allow people to come in into our communities even more so. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Just going through my list here. Next up, David, and welcome, David. I know you arrived late, but thank you for coming. David, you may be muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Is that better?
Yes, there you go.
Good, thank you. I really think I don't know how to put this, but I think the number one reason we could lose Catholic schools is if they're no longer Catholic. So it's kind of like if they're not even Catholic represented at the lowest level, like not the lowest, but like at the ground level by the parents' councils, then what's the justification for a separate school system? Like I understand you want to be open to everybody so they can experience it and make their own choices. That I agree with. But if you can't have, like Trustee Duarte was saying, if you look at the numbers, if you have 8 people on the council and 4 of them are non-Catholic, like where's the balance of power? And like, not power, but that's my biggest fear. Like I have people I know, and I'm sure we all do, who really question why is there 2 school boards? And if there's not Catholic in the leadership, like I understand there will still be Catholic in the leadership, but I think this is like Trustee O'Brien was saying, this is like the frog in the water that's beginning to boil kind of thing. I don't know if this is the place to bring it up, or the time and place to bring it up. If the trustees are asking for our input, as a community rep, this is basically what I wanted to say. I just assume this is not where to bring up the Catholicism of Catholic education, but that's what I would like to say, and that's probably enough there.
Okay, thank you, David. Nope, we hear you. Sarah.
Okay, so my feeling towards it was just, if we're allowing it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be filled. So I think that everyone's very concerned that all of a sudden we're getting councils that are half non-Catholic. We're just saying that they can be non-Catholic. So if there's lots of Catholic parents that want to be involved, that doesn't mean that the spots are going to go to non-Catholic parents. And also, to the other point, I think that we want the most involved parents who want to be part of this committee to be part of their children's life. They're putting them in a Catholic school on purpose, meaning that they're good with Catholic education. So I think we shouldn't just deter people from being part of the committee because of their religion if they are opting to put their child in a Catholic school. And I mean, the student council doesn't have, or sorry, the parent council doesn't have a huge involvement in the Catholic part of it. They're more about the fundraising, the activities. They're not going to be driving it away from Catholicism. So I don't think it's a huge deal.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Vince.
Thank you, Jerry. I feel a passion amongst all the comments in here. I'd just like to add that when we're talking about something like this, adding members to, like you mentioned before, these parents have already accepted that the Catholic tradition in registering a child at the school. And I think that we have to focus on the opportunity to evangelize our faith, and maybe it would grow the amount of Catholics we have in our community by including everyone in, as we always do, and that inclusive nature will hopefully have more Catholics, and maybe they're going to invite their friends to maybe the opportunity, oh, this is a great school, and grow our faith and everything that we are doing. So I just think it's a more of an excellent opportunity to engage our communities and evangelize our wonderful Catholic faith.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Okay, I'm seeing some repeats of hands going up, and we do want to give every committee member an opportunity to speak if they so choose. If you have an add-on, what I don't want this to become, though, folks, is a is a drawn out debate or series of rebuttals. So if you have an additional comment to add or a proposal to make, please do so. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next person. So Andrea, your second time up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jerry. And through the chair, I agree with the comments. And a couple things. One, could there be more membership could the number be expanded? Or alternatively, I sit on a hospital board, and one of the things they said to me originally is sometimes before you're admitted, you can be on a committee. So are there other ways to engage either as non-voting or in a ancillary subgroup if people are concerned about if 50% is too much, is it a lesser number, or is there a way to do it differently that enables engagement without handing over that much of the control, if you will? I don't know what other word to use.
Yep. Oh, thank you, Andrea. A good add-on, and thank you for the suggestion. Okay, David, do you have something to add? And again, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't want to rebut or anything. I had another question, and I just chatted it. Can a school council, like Andrea was saying, operate with more or fewer representatives? If we could allow, if there's lots of Catholics I want to represent, can we add more? If there's not enough, can it operate on 4 or 6 representatives rather than open it up to non-Catholics? Again, the leadership, if it's not declared Catholic, that's the only thing. That's all I want to add.
Yep. No, thank you, David. And I believe, and Jeff, I might need you to speak to this, but the school council bylaws reside at the school council level, but generally my understanding is that the council should be comprised of 8 parent members, in addition to the teaching and non-teaching staff members in the school. However, it's not limited to 8. To my understanding, unless I suppose the school council had a specific bylaw preventing this, that the number can be greater. I don't know about it being less. Jeff, can you speak to that in any more with any more authority?
Yeah, there's nothing in the Education Act that speaks to the number of parents specifically on school council. It's up to schools to develop their own bylaws. I think 8 is kind of what we would say is a best practice. That's a good number to kind of shoot for as a minimum. But in some schools, bylaws would have a maximum as well, so a maximum number, but some don't. And I know there are some school councils that are into the double digits and even to the 20s for large school communities because they want to be as inclusive as possible. But it really would be individual school bylaws that would speak to the number or not speak to the number of parents on a school council.
Okay, so basically it could vary council to council. 8 is a guideline. That's probably how most operate, but not. My own school council is larger than that. We are 11 currently. So certainly there isn't necessarily that upper bound. As for fewer, at what point does it become too small to be representative of the school body? I suppose. So hopefully that helps with the edification here a little bit. Okay, I think we've gotten through all those that want to speak. I see some additional comments in the chat in agreement of various members. Okay. So at this point, I mean, it's a difficult one to summarize. Perhaps as chair, I've been holding my own comments, but perhaps I'll add mine as member of the committee. And I'm also considering what everyone else has said here as well. Personally, I would support a change to the procedure that would allow additional non-Catholic members, but limited to a minority representation. So in other words, or to phrase it, I suppose more positively, a simple majority of a school council and by extension CPIC, I would suggest should be Catholic. So that would be 50% plus one. So in the case of a council, school council with 8 members, obviously that would be 5 that would need to be Catholic. That's what I would propose. That's what I would put to the board personally, such that it allows for some additional non-Catholic representation, wherein there isn't enough Catholic representatives coming forward, but also maintains the majority membership being Catholic and maintaining the Catholicity of our councils. That would be my 2 cents. So back to our trustees, because this, of course, will be taken back to them. I don't know that we're necessarily looking for a vote on this to say we support it one way or another, because clearly there are a variety of views. Some strongly for, some strongly against, some proposing compromise. So at this point, I would look to our trustees, I suppose, to comment. What further would you look for us? Look from us. And I see Trustee Dort, you've got your hand up, so please go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, you're right. We're not really looking at getting a vote. There's no correct answer and there's no wrong answer. So we actually want to get as much input from CPIC, and if possible, if you can get some feedback from school councils quickly in the next week or so. I don't know if there's a better way to get some feedback from school councils, because the policy is up for discussion next week, and we're hoping to get to the bottom of this. I'll reserve my comments for later, but if this is the only thing that you're planning to discuss, or is there anything else on your mind?
We have more items on our agenda, indeed, but sorry.
Regarding this item, regarding this procedure.
This is only the first one.
Okay.
But go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, what I was going to say to that, the other changes that we're proposing, I think, are much more minor. Probably won't require so much fulsome discussion, and really didn't get a whole lot of feedback on those because the changes were relatively minor. The only other suggestion that has been made by Joel that I think is maybe worth some discussion, and was also part of our CPIC subcommittee on elections, was around increasing the number of North Halton members from 2 to 4 based on the growth in Milton and the growth in Halton Hills, as wanting to be more representative of the entire HCDSB community. And that's some feedback we could give trustees as well if we would like.
Okay, so just before we go to that, because I noticed the Trustee O'Brien had his.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's okay. He had his hand up at the tail end of that the prior discussion. So perhaps we can give the last word to Trustee O'Brien here.
That might be a mistake. Thank you, Jerry. I like your idea of a simple majority. I've never heard that yet. That would be a great comment to bring back to our policy meeting. A collection of all the comments, including Father Salazar's, would really help us to move forward on that policy. So all the comments, maybe just stated as they were spoken, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee. Okay. All right, and so sorry, coming back to the next one, the number of trustees, or sorry, the number of committee members for CPIC, and potentially increasing the number. And if I understand correctly, if we want to get a change of that sort in, I think, is the board? I believe the board is meeting tomorrow to discuss this.
So it's going back to policy next week, next Tuesday, and then the recommendations from the policy committee would then go to the board for the next board meeting.
Okay, it's not till next week. Okay, I thought it was tomorrow was the policy meeting, but okay. Okay. Okay, so the discussion point then before us, folks, is whether to put forward a proposal to increase the size of CPIC, the size of the committee in North Halton to recognize the growth there. And we had originally talked about going from 2 in North Halton to 4, and splitting it between Milton and Halton Hills. So one thing I'd ask, because I know that's what we talked about last time we got together, Jeff, is in terms of representation. So we're talking 2 for Milton, 2 for Halton Hills. I think it was kind of the idea. But does that make sense from a representation standpoint, or should it be 2 in Milton, 1 in Halton Hills, or something like that? Okay. Wow. Is it already? It is 8:59. Okay. So yes, in respect of everyone's time, and given that we are now a half hour over our time, we do need to take a vote in order to extend the duration of our meeting, and I believe that's done in 30-minute increments. Is that correct, Jeff?
Correct. So at 9 o'clock, we have to have a vote by voting members. We need a 2/3 majority. And then at 9:30, we would have to have unanimous consent to continue.
Okay. So what's the best way to conduct a vote on this platform? I've never done this before.
Typically, what we would do is you would call on each of the voting members. So each of the parent representatives, I can help you with that. And then they would just sort of express what their vote is.
Okay.
So the easiest way to do it is probably to go through the chat, or sorry, through, if you go see where the on the right hand side where people are, and just kind of go through who the voting members are.
Okay, and so therefore we'll be going in alphabetical order. Alex, so of course the vote, what we're voting on, of course, folks, is to extend our meeting by another half an hour.
Yes, is that what I'm supposed to say?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Alex. Andrea.
Agreed.
Thank you. Joel.
Yeah.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Lydia.
Yes.
Thank you. Sarah.
Yes.
Solomon. Sorry, Solomon, you have to unmute. Okay, sorry, we'll have to move past Solomon. Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. And I believe we have a majority, or at least 2/3. I'm in favor as well, for what it's worth. Okay, back to the point of discussion. So the composition of the CPIC committee, vis-a-vis North Halton splitting into Milton and Halton Hills representation. So that's what's before us. I'm going to switch back to the chat. Would anyone like to speak to this? Father Francis, thank you.
Sure, given the growth of Milton and Halton Hill, that's kind of agreeable, I think. That's my opinion.
I'm sorry, Francis, Father Francis, can you restate that?
Given the growth, it's agreeable, I think, according to me, because that's a really growing number and they should have representation.
Okay, thank you. And should it be 2 and 2, or should it be 2 for Milton, 1 for Halton Hills? And I'm asking this and not knowing what the growth projections are. Joel?
I'm on that number. I would argue 2 for Milton and 1 each for Halton Hills and 1 for Georgetown to make it formal, or just 2 for North Halton in general. But I think it's just Milton's growing too fast that we need to have some actual, some definitive representation from them on the committee.
Okay. Halton Hills, though, and again, I'm exposing my own ignorance here in terms of how our boundaries are defined. Halton Hills includes Georgetown, does it not?
Sorry, yes, that's right. So Acton and Georgetown.
So Acton and Georgetown are Halton Hills. So yeah, so when we're talking about Halton Hills, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Denise, I see your comment. Support the expansion of this. Two from both Milton and Halton Hills. No need to speak on this. Okay, thank you, Denise. Okay, so I don't see any additional. Okay, thank you, Alex. Also support expansion. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I don't see any opposition or hear any opposition. Okay, thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Alex. Okay. Okay, so unless there's anyone opposed, I think we're probably good on this topic. Seems we got overwhelming support to expand the committee. So what would be appropriate next step on this, Jeff?
So I'll share that recommendation as part of the policy report. So when we provide a policy and a procedure, we provide rationale and recommendations. So I'll be sure to capture that in the report that's submitted to the policy committee next week.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay, was there another policy or procedure item for discussion?
I think that's it, unless there's any other feedback on any of the other minor changes. I feel we've we probably can move on at this point unless anyone has something else to say, or if you want to provide it in an email to me as well, I'm certainly, and to Jerry and I certainly can do that as well. So thank you very much. I know this is was a very good conversation, very much appreciated by the trustees, because it will help inform the work that we're going to do in policy.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you, everyone, and thank you everyone for your candor and your respect throughout this discussion. Okay, so moving on to item number 8, Denise, OAPSI update.
Okay, thank you. So just very briefly, so OAPSI has been actually quite busy during this time period, sort of doing a whole bunch of things at once, and I'm just going to update you on a few things. One is that we as a group had met online with the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, to have a virtual meeting to share parental concerns. And this ongoing dialogue is hoped to continue beyond the initial meeting. It was positive. There was good feedback, and I think good perception from the minister as well. So we're hoping as a group to continue with that as well. I guess the biggest thing OAPSI has been working on is the summit, which was scheduled to be hosted by Halton Catholic and on May 2nd has been altered, and they have created a virtual summit on May 9th. I would like to thank certainly our communications and all of you who jumped in very quickly when I sent the email to sort of get information out to our parents. I haven't had a chance to liaise yet with the executive director, Annalisa, at this point on numbers. But I'm really appreciative of all the work that went in to send out information as soon as I sent the email. So thank you very much. Speaking at that summit virtually will be Sarah Westbrook, Robert Gallo, who was scheduled to speak in person if the in-person summit was to be held, and Paul Davis. So other than that, there's a lot going on in terms of minor things with the OAPSI group that I won't share here. I'm hoping to have a board of directors meeting upcoming. They just haven't set one. I know we're going to have one virtually, and hope to update you all when that happens. But those are just some of the major things that have happened in terms of what we've been doing at OAPSI. Are there any questions?
Okay, I don't see anything coming up here. Oh, wait. Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate the updates as always. Okay, moving on to the next item, number 9, Council of Chair meetings. Of course, you know, with our current reality, there an in-face meeting is not feasible. So wanted to put it out to the committee to discuss you know, possible options for holding a virtual meeting, or other thoughts or ideas. I mean, again, and if we think about the purpose of our Council of Chairs meetings, it is of course primarily to maintain and continue to build on engagement with you know, our leadership teams within the various within the schools, across the schools, and provide a venue for those members to come together, you know, hear relevant information, opportunity to engage with each other, and so on. So with that in mind, and obviously with our current reality in mind, wanted to throw it out for some brief discussion on thoughts or ideas as to how we could potentially accomplish the same type of goals, but in the absence of an in-person Council of Chairs meeting. So I open it up for anyone who'd like to comment. So Alex asking, can we make a Zoom meeting with school council chairs and make it an interactive and sharing opportunity? Jeff.
Yeah, our preferred platform for a variety of reasons, among the most important is privacy, is to use Microsoft Teams. So my understanding is that you can have up to 250 members in a Teams meeting. So this is a platform that we could use, but I will connect with IT to see what platforms we could access. But my understanding is that there are some concerns around privacy with Zoom that we may not be able to use that platform.
Yeah, and is it fair to say, Alex, you I don't think you necessarily mean Zoom categorically, but a Zoom type meeting? Would that be fair to say?
Sorry, what I mean is the number of people, right? If we want to have school councils, we will have at least 50 people or more. So that would be, you know, like just to include everybody.
Okay. Yeah, so I think to your point, Jeff, I think the Teams platform would you know, ideally would suit. Okay. Andrea.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say that I assume that's what Alex meant, and Jeff, is not to inadvertently be tech support for you, but Zoom is not considered to be a secure platform that governments would or should be using, and so I would recommend Teams as well.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have additional thoughts around how we could accomplish what we would normally like to do with a Council of Chairs meeting? Okay. All right. So I think it's an item to take away. We'll investigate the feasibility of doing it through the Teams platform, and see what our options are there. And perhaps I'll reach out separately to engage our kind of communications and outreach subcommittee for thoughts as to if we did something, what would it look like? Agenda items, guest speakers, that kind of thing. What would we do? And the timing of it, of course, given we've got 2 months remaining in the school calendar. So okay, and Jeff, I see your hand up.
Sorry, you said that very well, Jerry. I'm going to commit to we could find a way to make some sort of online meeting work, recognizing that the date we had originally scheduled for was May 20th. That date's probably not feasible for all of us to get something up that's meaningful for parents up and running So we would need to kind of think about what's a date that could work. Would it be something that parents would be interested in, and what topics could we provide for parents in these times that would be most helpful for them?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Alex, for that suggestion. I think that'd be very relevant if we were able to conduct some kind of a an online meeting to make it about the future, for sure. Okay. Okay. Very good. Moving right along here. The next item we had up is number 10 on the agenda, elections, vacant positions, and also the currently the co-chair position on our committee is vacant. So part of this stems from, of course, if we are moving forward to change the policy to have more representation for Milton / Halton Hills, then that would then of course create one or two more vacancies that would need to be filled, and plus we have a few vacancies that are coming up for next year. Now again, wrench has been thrown into the works as to our election plans. The elections committee got together. We had a sound plan drawn out to execute, and then of course it was short-circuited. So again, so a couple things before us. One is vacant positions coming up, and we don't know exactly how many until this goes to our proposal goes to policy to expand our committees, our committee membership. And number two, filling the upcoming vacancies. And then number three, filling the co-chair position. So I'm seeing some comments here. Alex, thank you. I'm up for election. Okay, and Andrew, you believe you are as well. Okay, yeah, we know. I believe, Jeff, at last count we have 3 vacancies coming up, not counting the potential new membership positions. Okay, so 3 plus potentially another 2, that'd be 5. And again, we're under time limitations given the shortened time left in the school calendar year. So the question is when to hold the elections, and under the circumstances, is something we could look to push to the fall potentially. Trustee Duarte, I see your hand up.
Through Mr. Chair, very quick question here. Maybe it's a question to Superintendent Corral. How do people in the community know when these positions become open? Because I've received questions from a couple of people asking me, expressing interest to join CPIC, but if they couldn't find the information anywhere on the website, so how do they quickly come to know that?
Right. So typically communication is sent out around that, and then but all of that's been on pause as the chair was noting. So we're behind a little bit on our process this year. We're just trying to think about, can we hold a viable election for parents in these kind of uncertain times? Just like the U.S. government right now are trying to figure out how could we do an election where we can't have the typical face-to-face council meetings that would likely occur around selection of potential CPIC members.
Sorry, just to follow up. Can this be posted somewhere on the website and say we have 2 CPIC positions in North Halton coming up, or 2 positions in Oakville coming up, where people can just go to the school board website and take a look rather than, waiting for the election thing to come out?
I think it would be prudent to at least wait until the policy meeting to make sure that we're posting the correct number of positions if we are going to expand. I think that would be wise, just so that we have the most current information. But recognize that does take time too. So I can certainly give that some thought. And Alex's question there, I think, is kind of an important question. Like, is it fair to hold an election now, or should we be waiting until the fall? It's tricky based on what our bylaws say, but our bylaws weren't written for what we're dealing with right now. because as you will recall, part of the process is having information sessions for potential candidates, so they understand what a role of a CPIC member is. They get a chance also then to write a brief biography that's shared with school councils, and that's a big part of what comes out of that meeting. You've all been through it, you know.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Jeff, for the illumination there. So I see a few hands up. Let's go through them, please. Yeah, Alex, let's start with you. You added the first comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to talk from my experience last year. I think it's a process that when you have the time to do it, it's great. Like we had last year something like had never happened before, and we had all of you guys plus like 15 more people. There were like 30 people sending their biographies to be part of CPIC. So like having gone through that process last year compared to the previous years that we had 3, 4, or 5, it really, the face-to-face makes a huge difference, and gives consistency. It's a little bit late right now, right? If we see it, to start doing the process, and I don't know if with this situation it is going to be feasible to do it in a way that is fair and is not a rushed process.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Appreciate the insight from the past experience. That's great. Joel, hand up.
Yeah, it sounds like we have a few things happening going forward. One is we're going to be making a policy change that will be adding seats that never existed, if I'm correct in understanding that, as well as vacancies that will need to be filled. Also, we also have the Council of Chairs meeting coming up, which could be a potential opportunity to introduce this all to the school councils at once. Rather than kind of rush through it right now to force something down people's throats that might not go over too well with the school councils. I don't know what our bylaws specifically say about that. If we can postpone the proceedings so far, I would argue these are extenuating circumstances that we're all in, so we should have some leeway in waiting. I would say maybe wait until after this council chairs meeting, whenever that takes place, before we start unveiling the procedure. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think those are fair comments, Joel. And if I could suggest that at a minimum, before the school year's out, we have a plan in place, and we publish it, and we do so, I suppose, with any blessings that are necessary. For us to do that, yeah. So Alex, you're speaking to like an amendment due to the circumstance. I think I believe that'd be more than fair and well supported. The good news is the vast majority of us are returning in the fall. So thankfully, it's not that we're going to have 8 vacancies. Rather, it's the other way around. So that we do have that on our side. Arguably, we still remain a viable committee and continue to do our work. So, but what I would say is we need to have a plan in place with timelines, so that and perhaps we do use a virtual council of chairs meeting to lay that out, explain how it's going to work under the current circumstance, adding 2 new positions and so on. That would be my suggestion. So that said, let's go back to the committee. Sarah, you guys see your hand up.
Yeah, so my only comment was going to be, it might actually make sense, even if we aren't going to hold the election until the fall, to have information sessions virtually, because then more parents from different places that couldn't get to that school that night or something like that could, at least watch it later or log into it. So that might be worth noting, as well as maybe if we do have in school, maybe also having a virtual session for people that can't physically be present to find out about what CPIC has to offer. And then also, I think we're all really going off the idea that by September, we're going to be back to normal. And I think we need to think that we might not be. So potentially we might need to look at this being a virtual thing going forward. So I think we need to also have that plan in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Sarah. Thank you. Alex, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think one of the requisites to be able to be there is attending those information sessions. So people that didn't attend, though they send their biographies, they were not taking on account. Only the people that attended the information sessions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a fair point, Alex. And I think again, we'll certainly take attendance, whether it be a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting. So hopefully we can accomplish the same goal. We want people's commitment. They can't just throw their name in the hat and not attend the sessions. I agree. Okay. So again, I think in terms of next steps, Jeff, I mean, it sounds like there's overwhelming or pretty strong support anyway. We haven't heard certainly from everyone, but unless anyone's opposed, I think we're in a position where to try and run an election now would be challenging given the time constraints and our current physically distant reality, and having to recraft the process in a virtual way. So I think the proposal before us is to put a plan together such that we end up executing against it in the fall, that being the election itself. Jeff.
Yeah, I'm just thinking and picking up on what Joel was saying earlier. I mean, what we're really talking about is a change to our bylaws. There is a portion in our bylaws that speak to the election. So our bylaws say that if there is going to be a change to, and I'm just reading from them right now, any proposed change to the bylaws must be in writing to the chair at least 2 weeks prior to the next CPIC meeting and placed on the agenda as a notice of motion. If CPIC deems necessary, the proposed bylaw change may be circulated to the council of chairs for feedback. The motion will be placed on the agenda at the next CPIC meeting and can only pass with a 2/3 majority. So maybe the way forward is that we draft a proposed bylaw change in the interim, that we pass. We have to have a special meeting to make that, pass that motion, circulate it to the council of chairs at the council of chairs meeting, open it up for discussion, and then we would come back and kind of pass it. I think that would be in keeping with our bylaws. It'd be transparent to the school council chairs, and it would let them know that we want to make sure that it would raise the profile of the elections if we get people thinking about them, and let them know that we want to have what we think is the fairest election process. I'm open for discussion, but I'm just kind of thinking that's a way to kind of keep in mind with our bylaws, be sensitive to the times that we're in, and kind of get input and feedback from our council of chairs.
If I might suggest, I mean, I think just by virtue of following the bylaw and that procedure, kind of de facto we're putting the election off, just from a sheer timing perspective, right?
Right.
Yeah. So again, in the normal course, which we are not in the normal course, I think that's exactly the process we'd follow. So, but the reality is, if we wait until the council of chairs meeting, it's kind of a done deal. There's no way we'd be having an election. So, catch-22, rock on a hard place. Joel.
Yeah, I don't see an easy way out of this particular dilemma, but I do think Jeff's right. We need to have we need to be transparent to the school councils, and since it looks like we're going to be having a council chairs meeting in this format, this is really the only method that we can make sure that we are open and transparent. I would argue, and I'm not sold on this, but the individuals whose terms are up, they are up. We thank them for their service, and maybe we postpone the actual election process until September or even October, maybe when the next year school year begins. Going forward, just because I don't think we're going to be doing too much over the course of the summer, at least not in this particular format, and that would just give everybody a chance to kind of catch their wind and just salvage something out of this.
Yeah. So I mean, not sure where to take it from here because again, we're from a timing perspective, we're misaligned. Okay. So yes, thanks, Jeff. I'm keenly aware. All right, let's take this offline at this point. Just and perhaps between Jeff and I, we can come back with what would be a reasonable and acceptable way forward with this process, and let's communicate that back to the committee.
Sure.
Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we are approaching now 9:30, and looking at our agenda, what do we have remaining? Oh, we are right at the tail end here, folks. We did not address the election of a co-chair. Now, okay, first we better. I expect, folks, once we get past this discussion, I don't think we have much longer to wrap up our agenda. But in respect of our bylaws, let's do have another vote, please, on whether to extend the meeting up to an additional 30 minutes. But again, I don't believe it should take that long. Okay, so back to the top of the list. Alex.
Yes. I'm just looking at the situation right now, and I think as CPIC, it's really, really important if we can move in the communications committee forward and really get that social media going, the platform, because that would be the best way for us to be able to reach parents and foster the parent engagement. And I think that's going to be our best vehicle right now. So I don't know if there's a possibility, Jeff, that we can meet with Andrea and with the other committee members. I don't know what the committee thinks. I know it's not exactly what is in the agenda, but I don't know what people think about that.
Okay. All right. Oh, so sorry, Alex. Thank you. I was just asking a vote to extend the meeting time right now.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. But I appreciate your other comments as well. Thank you. That's a great point. Andrea.
I agree.
Thank you. Joel.
I agree.
Okay, Lydia.
Yes.
Thank you. Sarah.
Yes.
Solomon.
Yes.
Thank you. Steve.
Yes.
Okay, and I concur as well. Okay, thank you. So back to the last item on elections, election of a co-chair. Again, we deferred it at our last meeting. There was no urgency seen to fill it immediately, but certainly open to hearing about that now. Different thoughts now as to the importance of filling the co-chair position. And please, anyone, please raise your hand. Okay, we're not getting any comments. Is it okay? Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm going to take a guess that the group feels that you're doing a very good job as chair and would be satisfied with you being leader for the rest of the term. But I'll throw that open for discussion. I think you've done a great job the last few months flying solo. And if anyone's interested in the position of co-chair, they'll certainly be welcome. But I think you've filled the position very well.
Thank you. Notwithstanding, I've gone over an hour in our agenda tonight. But anyway, I do see a hand up, Alex.
Sorry, Gary, how do you feel about it? If you feel you need a co-chair, to make this short, because I know we're short in time, I will propose my name for that.
Alex, hey.
You feel you need one.
You know what? I must say I've been well supported. So haven't felt a keen need for one right now. Certainly, I'm looking forward to having a co-chair. Whether now or soon in the future, so that especially heading into next year, we get off on the right foot with the right composition. But I'm happy to go either way, guys. I really am. Yeah, again, love to see it filled, but also don't want to put it, do it in such a way that it feels rushed or someone feels pushed into it, or and again, with an election coming up, do we also consider that one of the new members may also want to put their name forward? So there's that consideration as well. But okay. Does yes, Joel?
I don't think we're feeling rushed to fill the co-chair seat. If you're comfortable with it, Jerry, I think we're all comfortable with you steering the ship so far. And I think maybe in the fall, once we have new members on the committee, if we want to do another election, then maybe it's then. But right now, I think we have bigger things to worry about than the co-chair seat at the moment.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. Okay. All right. Looks like there's good support there to just maintain the status quo. Oh, Solomon, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with what Joel just said. I think we're just okay. I think we should just move ahead. There are more important things at this point. I think you are doing a good job. So.
Okay. Well, thank you one and all. Appreciate the votes of confidence. I'm happy to be filling the role and filling the need for now. So terrific. Okay, I think we're safe to move on. I think we've heard from nearly everybody. Terrific, and thank you, Andrea. And I know I can reach out to each and every one of you for support. So thank you. And our subcommittees have been doing great jobs too, kind of doing their thing as well to support everyone. So that's great. Okay. Thank you. So where are we? So business. I think we've got a fair bit of business to take away already. But anything that anyone else wants to call out specifically for future agenda items? We know we potentially have one where we may have to have a special meeting to have a vote. But aside from that, does anyone else have anything else? Let me scroll back down. Alex, I see your hand up.
Great. I think the answer, Jeff just put it there. I think it's, in the interest of time and just to get things done, if we can get that meeting with Andrea, I think that would be amazing. That would be really a good end of the year if we can have that platform ready to be used.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, then of course we'll do a call out for agenda items again, and we'll advise as well when our next meeting will be, and of course we'll be circulating minutes shortly from this meeting. Father Francis, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Father. Would you mind closing our meeting with a prayer?
Sure. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us take a moment to acknowledge that we have entered into the month of May, even though we are in this unprecedented time of all of our history, all of who are living at this moment. It's a really difficult moments. So as we continue to go through this pandemic, and as we have begun the Catholic Education Week, so we have begun the month of May, which is attributed to the Mother Mary. Let's continue to implore and intercede that Mother Mary may continue to watch over us, that she may intercede for us with the Lord, that the Lord may continue to give us peace, give us courage, give us hope. May the Lord continue to be with us, and may He continue to lead us. And especially those who are going through difficult moments, our parents, our children, who are homebound, who are not able to do the regular activities, that they may have the courage. And I can say very well that this situation has given us hope. We continue to hope because we continue to cherish in our faith. That faith gives us the strength. May God continue to bless each of us, bless our community, bless our parents and children. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay. Thank you, Father, for that beautiful prayer. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much again for your attendance tonight and for your patience as we work through this. And again, thank you for your thoughtful discernment and respectful debate and discussion tonight. Very well done. Okay, and until we meet again, folks, meeting adjourned. Thank you. Have a great night and stay safe.
Thank you, Jerry. Great job.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Jerry.
And thank you to our trustees and our chairman for attending as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you. Good night.